As you learn about the narcissistic pattern, it's also wise to reflect on the much healthier alternatives. Now, below you're going to find a link to my new extensive course called Ready, Set, Connect. It addresses both the mindset and the skills involved in gratifying relationships, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. Today I want to go back to the basics with you and talk about the toxic traits that make a narcissist a narcissist. You know, here on Team Healthy, you've heard me mention so many times that we stand for, DRC stands for dignity, respect, and civility. When you're in a growth mode, when you're somebody that says, I want to be the best version of myself as I can, you're going to be an introspective kind of person. You're going to look inward, and you might ask, what are the traits that I need to keep and build upon in my personality, and what are the traits that I need to eliminate or minimize? And we call that having good insight, and that's part of what we call the actualization process. Narcissists, however, don't grow. They have character flaws that just keep showing up year after year after year. And it's like you're not catching on. So many people may try to confront them about their adjustments, but they just can't do it. And so I want to talk with you today about awarenesses that I have gleaned from my counseling office. You have textbook awareness of what narcissism is, and you can look at the diagnostic codes and what the textbooks say about what narcissism is. Or frankly, after 40 years of talking with people in my counseling office, you get a real-time understanding of what it is. So I want to go into that. Now, I want to break the whole topic of narcissism down into 8 different categories so that as you understand these various categories, you can have a very solid understanding of what this pattern of narcissism is. And obviously, it can help you in your introspective process, but it can also help you understand where that other person is coming from that may not be so helpful in your life. Now, the first category that I want to hone in on is narcissism is built upon chronic insecurity. Narcissists are emotionally needy. They're constantly wondering, what's my standing here? Are you okay with me? Are you going to give me the supply that I want and need so that I can finally feel okay? And as a result of that, they're constantly on the prowl. What do you think of me? What are you going to do if I say this or do that? And they can be chameleons. With certain people, they're going to be this way. With certain other people, they're going to be a different way. It's all about gaining supply and getting themselves to the place where they can think, other people do like me. But very much they live behind a false self. Constantly wondering, how do I have to posture so that I can get whatever it is that I'm wanting to get off of other individuals? A second category that makes narcissists toxic is their chronic misuse of anger. You've heard me mention on other videos that anger itself is not a wrong emotion. Some things happen that it warrants an angry reaction. But when we talk about narcissism, their anger is not in any way constructive. They can use sarcasm. They may go into biting humor or jokes about other individuals at their expense. They can be bullies. They can be threatening. Don't you dare ever disagree with me. If you do, there's going to be a huge price to pay. They can chronically interrupt. They can hold grudges for a long, long time. They don't have regard for someone else's boundaries. They can hold on to resentment, even over little small, minor matters. It's like, let it go. It's like, no, I don't let it go. They can criticize easily, and often all of that's part of their anger disposition. They can have chronic procrastination. You ever think of that as being anger? It's passive aggressive. It's like, you bug me. I'm not going to do what I want, what you want me to do. I'll do things on my terms. And so their anger tends to be very dysregulated. Now, a third category that helps us understand what makes narcissists toxic is they have very low levels of empathy. You might be talking to them about things regarding who you are and what you feel, and sometimes you just get a blank stare. It's like, I don't care. Or other times they'll question, well, why do you feel that way? And it's like what you feel and what you think is just not relevant to them. They don't like that. They don't really keep up with who you are or what you have going on. They don't really make any hard attempt to understand you or know you from the inside out. Maybe they forget something that you told them yesterday or 5 minutes ago because they're just not all that tuned into you. They're not sensitive to if you have any kind of mental health issues. They're prone to othering people in their lack of empathy rather than thinking, well, you're different from me. I wonder how you and I can learn to blend. They say, you're different from me, get out of here. And they don't want to know you. That's how they operate. A fourth category that helps us understand the toxicity of narcissism is the commitment to a false superiority. Narcissists operate with a great deal of entitlement. They're constantly coming up with one-up comments. You say something like, I went and did this, and they'll say, well, I did that last week, or I enjoy this. Well, I enjoy it better. They constantly can be rude to people, like condescending in the way that they engage with others, whether it's to people inside their family or service people or whoever it might be. They have the need to be the most beautiful, the most liked, the most accomplished. They have to be known as being a step above everybody else. They often use words like, should. You're supposed to just know what you should do. And they're the ones who create the agendas that everybody else is supposed to follow. They're the ones who are so enlightened. They operate with this attitude of superiority. I just need you to go along with me because I'm the smart one in the room. Don't you forget it. Now, a fifth category that goes along with their toxicity is notice how defensive they are. I mentioned the false self. It's so fascinating to see how unwilling narcissists can be to receive input at an even basic level. I mean, if you just say something like, well, you mentioned this, but here's my interpretation over here, you might just think they just insulted your mother and slapped them in the face and all. It's like they can't say, oh, well, let me think that through. They can become very quickly defensive and throw it back on you like, what's wrong with you? They're not capable of receiving input. They're not teachable. They constantly use denial. I didn't do that, or that's not, you got that wrong. They use blame shifting. If you try to point out something that might be better managed, it's like, well, it was the other person's fault anyway. They tell lies. They keep secrets. They keep a very thick wall around themselves. They have a strong, pervasive inability to say, I blew it, or I could use some help. Somehow that makes them feel like they're a nobody if they have to say that. I call it just being human. A sixth category that's part of their toxicity is narcissists live inside of shame. Early on in life, they realize that there's a grading system out there, and it's incumbent upon them to figure out what's best and worst and live on the best side. And so they don't ever want anybody to know some of their humanity. And then if you do come along and say, well, I noticed this, that, and the other that was going on that just didn't seem to be right, they take a victim status, like, why are you doing this to me? They actually dislike their humanity greatly, which is why they cover it up so much. And they may complain about how everybody else makes them miserable. Sometimes they'll cry if you just insinuate that something could have been different. They use a lot of what I refer to as awfulizing. Something didn't go well, and that's like, that's terrible, that's awful, because that's how they operate. They learn that you should be ashamed of mistakes or need for adjustments, as opposed to saying, let's look at it. They can't do that. Shame and victimization is a major category that they operate inside of. Now, a seventh category, and this is one of their hardest defining features, that keeps them toxic is they have decided that staying in the control position is a must. They have to be in control over you. And this is where I say they give you advice that you didn't ask for. They're very stubborn. They have their own unbending opinions, and they insist that you ought to have the same unbending opinions. They like to take ownership over people. In other words, you will be what I say it needs to be. They can insult individuals who don't go along with them. They can have many manipulations to keep people doing whatever their agenda says you're supposed to do. And then let's wrap with saying these people that have these toxic kinds of characteristics in these categories, they're just not teachable. I go back and say you want to be somebody that says, well, I want to see what is working well and what does not work well, and then make adjustments as I age and mature. They just can't do it. Let's remember that when we say that a person is toxic, what we mean is there's a type of psychological poison, if you will, that they bring to the equation. They're harmful. And they're pervasively unhealthy. And as you look at these categories that I'm mentioning, it can give you a layman's way of understanding this is what narcissism is. These are the characteristics that make a narcissist toxic. So I'm hoping that we're going to go back to what I said at the very beginning, that you are going to be someone that says, well, I want to live with insight, and I want to live in introspection. Because throughout my entire life, I'm hoping that I can be a lifelong learner, and I'll be the one that makes adjustments along the way. And when the narcissist says, I'm not joining you there, then your response can be, yes, I see that. I need to move forward anyway. I hope that videos such as this give you some good food and information that helps you understand what we're dealing with here. And I felt it was necessary for us to do a back to the basics in a very pragmatic way here today. So I hope that's something you find to be stimulating. If you've not already hit our subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. Our community is growing, and I'm so appreciative that you allow me to be a part of your growth trajectory. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell that goes with it. Many times as you're trying to sift this through, you could use some therapy, and I'm so pleased to know that we have a group, the BetterHelp.com people, that can assist you in this way. If you'll click the link that we provide below, it'll take you to a whole team of licensed professional therapists that can help you sift these things out. And I would strongly encourage you to go in that path if that's something that you would need. In addition, we have my therapeutic courses. Ready, Set, Connect. It's all about making healthy connections and how to get there. This is me. It's about setting boundaries, free to be, finding who you are despite the controllers. They each have multiple videos, teaching documents, questions, and it's meant to walk you through a therapeutic process. In addition, we have other resources below. We have a new podcast coming up, and we also have my books, etc. Now, it's so important for you to realize that when narcissists try to put their junk onto you, it's a projection. It's their way of saying, I don't want to have to deal with all the things inside of me that are poisonous. But I'm hoping you can say, that's not my thing that I have to undertake. I'm not going to carry your garbage. I have enough work that I'm going to do on my end of the equation. And in doing so, you can stay away. It's called boundaries. Stay away from their unhealthiness and commit yourself to that DRC that we talk about. And in doing so, here on Team Healthy, you can be positioned to be a person of peace.